Well, a hearty shalom to all of you. Jeffrey Seif here, and I'd like to welcome you. I'm so pleased that you're wanting to tune into the world of the Messianic Jewish Family Bible Society. I'm glad you want to tune into the Bible. I mean, if the Bible didn't mean anything to you, then this wouldn't and I wouldn't. My name is Jeffrey Seif. I'm a professor of Bible and theology for some 30 years, among other things. I wear a few hats, and my task is to help you look at the good news through the eyes of the Jews. And we're beginning in Genesis, and we're going through the year following the Bible the way Jewish people do. It's divided up into segments, and this is Parashat Noach. Last week was Bereshit, the beginnings, the first from Genesis 1:1 bleeding over into early Genesis 6, and now we go from 6 out to 11, and then we pick up next week with Lech Lecha, the story of Abraham. And we're looking at what the Bible says about the beginning. And in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth, according to the text, and then it went south from there. I mean, we haven't read 10 minutes into the Bible till we discover God is not a happy camper. When we're young, we're very enthusiastic, but there's something about living life and seeing it and experiencing it. It can kind of take the joy out of living in the sense that we realize that people aren't always what we think they'd be, and things don't turn out the way we want them to be. Well, if you look in Bereshit in Genesis chapter 6, and I'm using the Tree of Life version of the Bible, and I'm reading from what we call the brick, that is the big version, and I like it. It's big print. It works for old guys like me, and the artwork is to die for, really. You want to get one of these Bibles or the artwork, or you just want to do it. In Genesis chapter 6, verse 13, God says to Noah, "The end of all flesh is coming before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. Behold, I am about to bring ruin upon them along with the land." It's like an indictment, the first few chapters. You realize that God made us upright, and it all just came unglued. And by the time you get to the 6th chapter, as I said, God says enough already. They're just rotten to the core. It's so easy to read early Genesis in the days of Noah and think about the days that we live in, and that's rather prophetic too, because the Lord is on record saying, as it was in the days of Noah, so will be the days of the coming of the Son of Man. There's just some kind of correlation between the two. So it's worth taking a deep look, deeper, by the way, than a 10-minute talk on early Genesis. What I want to underscore here is that the earth is full of violence. If you read the few verses before it in chapter 6, sexual impropriety is ubiquitous. People can't keep their pants on. They're sexually acquisitive, and the thoughts and intentions of the heart are just wicked to the core. And God says, enough already. You add violence to this acquisitiveness of women and sexual impropriety and all that goes with it. And the thing is an absolute mess. In addition to being a theologian, and here you are in my study, and I'm surrounded by my books, and theologians can just turn on their music and a little Vivaldi on the background and read through books and then talk about things divine. I'll turn on some soft music, and I've certainly read more than one book in my years as a theology student and a professor. But in addition to all that, I take all that off, and I'm a police officer. And just in the last week, God's honest truth, as a police sergeant, I've wrestled with violence, aggravated robbery with guns, carjackings. I just took a call last night. Situation went south. A guy pulled a gun out, and the other guy was supposed to have had a number of assault rifles in his vehicle. We went after the vehicle. It turned out not to be the case. But the narrative part that I got, he was assaulted. I was involved in an evading of police, a drunk driver as well. I deal with this stuff. I don't live in La La Land. I'm making this little DVD, this chat, just right after Halloween, and it's nice for the kiddies to get out there and make believe land, and they put on costumes and have fun, and that's beautiful. And then the parents take them around, and everyone's nice and gives out candy. But the truth is those kids are going to grow up. The world isn't all just sweet and nice like that. Hey, listen, enjoy the youth. I'm not taking it away from them, but I am trying to tell you, people will encourage a world, will experience a world like this. That's the bad news. You might say, well, Jeffrey, look, tell you the truth, I don't need what do I need to go to the Bible Society for to hear bad news? I just turn on the news or I look at my own circumstances. What do I want to turn into you and tap into you to hear how things are all screwed up? I already know that. What's your point there, Jeffrey? Well, my gig is I'm just walking through the Bible, and I want you to know the Bible tells us that there's bad news. And what makes the good news so good is the fact that the bad news is so bad. Now, we're looking at bad news here because the news is bad. But when you flip the pages, you learn that there is a problem, yes, but God has a plan. I want to look at the artwork right here in our brick. God makes a covenant with Noah. And there's a sign, there's deliverance, there's individuals that are rescued from a world that is in the throes of despair and has earned God's judgment as a result of their unbridled wickedness. And the judgment comes. That's the bad news. The fact is that sin is judged. We don't hear enough of that in church or synagogue today. People whitewash it. We can't talk about sin. We can just talk about problems. Let's call sin, sin. The word chet in Hebrew, sin, means to miss the mark. And truth be known is the world has strayed. That's the bad news. The good news is there is a plan. And here, out of the water, came a new world order, if you will, that God had destined to save a family and through them to again fulfill his purposes. And we'll follow that story with Noah and his kin, with the repopulation of the race. It's kind of a reset button, God starting all over again. And there's an arrangement, there's a promise, there's something of a covenant of peace. What happens is Noah gets out of the boat, he makes a sacrifice. It's a fascinating story here, and what I want you to know, principally, is that God delivers people from wicked worlds and wicked circumstances. And that's just not good for Noah, that's good news for you. It's not just good news for Jews, it's good news for all of you. It really works that, yes, the world spirals out of decay. And when you read the Bible, you're going to read that. Too many preachers whitewash it and just want to do happy clappy. Okay, look, I want to give some people good news too. And there's plenty of good news to give when you open up the Bible, but we got to look at it. What is it? And there's trouble in River City. Now, that's the bad news. God has a mechanism to deliver out of the waters of this world. And there's a boat, and he puts people in it, and he rescues them by means of their journeying in it. And let me just tell you something before I let you go, if I haven't already turned you off already, that making a passage in a boat to escape drowning in a wicked world. Why do you think congregations are called fellowships? It's a bunch of fellows in the same ship. It comes from this boating language. And it's called fellowship. And even deep relationships, we call our mate, my wife Barry, she's my mate, comes from boating language, from a first mate. It's fascinating, the way that relationship, partnership, fellowship, all kind of shipping going on here. It's in this boat together. And let me tell you that as a believer in Yeshua, we have to be in a boat. We're in a family, a bunch of fellows in the ship. That's what it entails. That we live in a world today where people place such a premium on autonomy. Everybody wants to be alone and do their own thing. I get that. We're all game to be an individual, and I'm not minded to lose my individuality. I got news for you. I am who I am, and ain't nobody going to take that away from me. I know I'm a different kind of creature, and I enjoy it. I'm not going to surrender all that. I'm going to be myself, but I have to be a self in relationship with other people, and you cannot walk with God alone. That can't happen. You got to be in the boat with others. That's how you escape it. Now, we're so cynical about others because we live in a world and, relationships didn't work out, or marriages failed, our friends are precarious and trippy, and, oh God, I can just trust you, my personal relationship with you. Who else can I trust? I get that. I know people are cynical. I know they give up on people. And I know religious people can get hurt by other religious people. Look, if you look at my driver's license, I'll be 61 years old in a few days. I wasn't born yesterday, and I'm not naive. But I want you to know that God can save people out of abysmal circumstances. You read Genesis chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and you'll see that. You'll see as well that the world goes bad, but God's got a plan, and we'll see next week how he brings an individual. He calls forth a nation through a fellow named Abraham, and through him, he's got great plans. I want you to know he's got great plans for the Jew. I want you to know he's got great plans for you, and I want you to discover it with me. Thank you for tuning into the Messianic Jewish Family Bible Society with me as your guide to and through the literature. It's an honor for me to go on this journey with you. I hope you'll tell your friends about it. I hope you'll get a Tree of Life version of the Bible, maybe get one of these big bricks as well. But whatever version of the Bible you read, make sure you read it and go with me on a journey of a lifetime this year, following the Jewish New Year, step by step by step. We'll do Torah together. God bless you. I'll see you in short order, same time, same station, next week.